with this computer. Okay, here we go. So what I thought we could do is have a conversation and um, about that piece
Okay.
of work you've done, because I've watched it and I've made some notes, and I thought it'd be useful to have a discussion about it as a kind of way of reflecting on it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Now, first of all, and I'm sure that you're going to disagree with a lot of things that I say. But that's perfectly all right.
Yeah.
I thought it was probably the best piece of work you've done.
Good. I agree for one thing. I like the abstract shot, but
Yeah.
I don't like how I speak in it.
Okay, that's fine. But that's, I think, well, why don't you like how? You mean you don't like the sound of your own voice?
No, because I mumble in it. Like,
Yeah.
say if I'm going to record something and I know
Yeah.
it's going to be recorded, normally I'll try and speak a lot better.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, I think it was very natural, which I think is a good thing. And if you look at lots of filmmakers like Godard, for example, if you look at British Sounds, you remember that film that I showed last year? It was shot in a car factory in Britain. It was just a single shot.
Oh yeah, yeah, I like that film.
Yeah. And basically, the voiceover for that film and for all the other films that he made with Goran in the Dziga Vertov group, he never corrected any mistakes by the narrator.
Yeah,
He kept them in the film. And so somebody would stumble over a word and they'd start it again. And normally you would cut that out, but he kept the whole thing in. And the reason he kept the whole thing in is that is basically for Godard, um, everything is cinema.
yeah, okay.
And he doesn't see any difference between documentary and experimental and fiction. Um, and all his relationships with the people he knows and all his thoughts are all in the work. And I think that's a much more honest way of approaching it instead of um, fabricating this, uh, spectacle.
I think that's what I do try to do because but then there's bits that I like because with my filming and stuff I
Yeah,
don't want to set up a tripod, do I, and have
yeah,
someone to help me do that. I want to be able to do everything myself. But I think
yeah,
within that there's part of things and like bad bits or whatever that I don't want people to see. Um, maybe I need to be more relaxed about maybe I'm not as relaxed about my filmmaking as I make out or think I am.
yeah. But I think the thing is, if you try to control people's perception of you,
Yeah.
why would you want to do that?
Uh, well, because we just spend our whole lives creating a certain image, don't we? And,
Yeah, but it's not as if it's secret filming, for example, where you see people, on CCTV doing things they think nobody knows. You're very conscious that you're making a film. You're very conscious it's your voice. You're very conscious you're filming. So it's not as if it's fake in any way. It's completely and utterly genuine. And I think that's when people listen to it and they watch it, they do get that sense of
okay.
it being genuine,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. Um, so that I mean, that's one thing in terms of Godard when he talks about everything being cinema. And the other thing is obviously he doesn't hide away from being reflexive in the facts that he's always calling into question the film, the filmmaking process, questioning it. And that's what you did as well in the piece. And I thought that was good because it wasn't just, about your depression, your anxiety. It was also about the whole filmmaking process,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting. But this module is about sensory praxis, right?
Yeah.
And do you think anything that you said or anything that you showed could be called sensory praxis?
Well, probably the whole thing.
Yeah. Why do you think that?
Um, well, there are a number of reasons. So sensory is like, well, because sensory means if you go through the different senses, it's about what we see and hear.
Mm,
It's also about what we feel,
yeah.
and then you've got the things like the things that I shot where there was everyday objects or things, but I focused on the texture of the objects.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and then I think the way it was put together as well, like I wasn't speaking, like the voice clips were put together after it was filmed,
Yeah.
so they didn't match up with what was happening on screen. So it was kind of it wasn't what you would expect. Like on the water clip, you'd expect to hear water or me to talk about
Yeah.
something that I was inspired by the water or something.
Yeah. But but for the whole, exactly, you're right. And for the past, well, year and a half, we've always been talking about how it's important to separate the sound and the image,
Yeah,
and that each of those things has its own value, has its own texture, has its own meaning. And I think all the imagery for me was really interesting. You know, just trying to work out what was going on and sensing what was going on with my eyes, whilst kind of listening to what you were talking about. And sensory is also about emotion, like you said, it's about how you feel. And obviously, there were a lot of things. Well, you talked about depression, anxiety, but also you talked about being a positive person,
yeah,
you know. So I think it was very, very raw and very open. And so, because of that, it's very engaging, it's really genuine. I mean, it's more interesting to watch you and listen to, to listen to you and watch those really completely meaningless images in the usual sense,
yeah.
compared to watching an episode of Love Island.
That Love Island, that's not very fair comparison. If anything, I
No,
would,
but what I'm talking about, it's the difference between popular media
yeah.
and engaging media.
I don't want to make popular media. Like,
Exactly, but
I find that boring.
yeah,
So it's
exactly.
not quite
And yet you talked about boredom quite a lot in
yeah,
your film, you know. Um, but I think it was really worth doing. I think it was a good experiment. Um, and the result, I mean, it was quite a simple process, really,
yeah,
compared to the usual, filmmaking process is by nature very physical and by nature very mentally demanding and by nature um, very kind of emotionally draining as well.
yeah,
And all those things, the emotional draining, the physicality and everything, it was all in your film as well.
yeah.
You know, in the way it was filmed, but also in your approach. So what's the difference between, you know, let's say conventional filmmaking and that approach?
Well, in conventional filmmaking, you're just trying to construct a certain narrative, and and everything is kind of set up, like you're set up a scene,
Yeah.
and
But
you
you set up scenes as well. You consciously chose to to film certain things,
yeah,
and you agreed to do this as well. You could have refused. You could have said, "I don't want to do this." I mean, I know you tried to,
yeah.
but yeah, some of the other things that yeah, this sense of overload, and the mental and physical overload that you experience
Yeah,
was, I think, came through really strongly.
I did it. Yeah,
Yeah, it came through really strongly, and I think that was good. And I think it was a very kind of, engaging story that really drew you in. I mean, I just started playing and I couldn't stop listening.
well, that's good because I thought it'd be the opposite. I
I
thought,
know, but why did you think that?
um, I guess because it's just my everyday life, isn't it? So that's what I experience every day.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
guess like, whereas you find it interesting that I go through these things, I probably find it frustrating and get pissed off that I'm in this.
yeah. I mean, I understood all the negativity around and all that. That was fine. That was part of the lived reality of you as a filmmaker.
Yeah,
But one of the things that obviously that I'm conscious of is, for example, the whole thing about mental health and everything about disability as well, and that you didn't want to be pigeonholed
yeah,
as, a disabled filmmaker, for example. And I do understand that, but at the same time, only you could have made this film,
yeah, that's true.
and only you can express those emotions without somebody kind of being a researcher and kind of speaking to you and interviewing you and coming up with a set structured questions, which is the more conventional approach. So
Yeah,
I think that it's really important that you recognize this piece as a sensory piece
okay, yeah,
in a very strong way.
yeah,
um, so that's one thing I was interested in. The other thing I was interested in is this whole notion of mental health, yeah,
yeah.
and the difference between mental health and mental wealth.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I don't know if you are you familiar with that concept of mental wealth?
no, not really. I think I've heard of it before.
Well, I've only just made it up
Uh,
because I was thinking to myself, how do you flip over the way that society judges a certain group of people, whatever that is? Yeah. And obviously, mental
yeah,
health has come up recently because it's something that's beginning to affect a huge number of people because of the pandemic. So issues around mental health could have been ignored before by everybody, and that can't be ignored anymore.
oh, it's gone.
So I just wondered what you thought about flipping over mental health and calling it and or determining it as mental wealth, meaning.
I
Oh,
didn't get any of that. You
oh, did you
froze.
miss it? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I can hear you now.
I'll say that again. I don't know what was the last thing you heard me
Okay.
saying.
You were talking about mental health, and you said that's something that's come up a lot recently,
Yeah, with COVID.
and then it cut out.
Okay, I was saying for a lot of people, they're beginning to understand what mental health is all about because there was a big concern because of isolation. There'll be lots of mental health problems, and we've seen that over the past year. Yeah.
Yeah,
But what I wanted to think about was in terms of if we reverse mental health and rather than stigmatize it, to celebrate it or
yeah,
celebrate the difference. I mean, obviously, these are medical conditions, okay, and people get treated for them. But I just wonder what your thoughts are about what the treatment is for and also what does normal mean?
I guess when you say what is the treatment for, what do you mean? How do you get better?
I mean, yeah, but it's obviously, mental health is a huge area, and there's lots of different kind of forms of mental health, mental illness, let's say. But talking a bit from your point of view, um, what does getting better mean?
It means being able to do stuff, like complete my work, go out, not be anxious, not be depressed.
So to function normally.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. And so when you're not mentally well,
yeah.
you feel that you're not able to be as creative, or do you feel you're not be able to be to do things you want to do in terms of being part of society?
I think that with like when I had bad mental health, I feel like I'm a different person. Like I
Mm,
feel like I'm not myself.
yeah.
Um, and I feel like I'm not like able to achieve the things or do the things I need to do.
You
But
spoke about that in the film a little bit as well.
but then at the same time, when I am depressed, sometimes that's when I get some of my best ideas. So
Yeah. Because even in the process of making the film, obviously you had some really, um, you had some sections of the film where you were clearly, not happy at all.
yeah,
And yet it all came together in something which is very wealthy in terms of, mental wealth, meaning being able to share with other people your experience and your perception. So I thought that was a positive thing.
yeah.
I thought it was a positive thing that you didn't give up, because that took some determination. Because you could have, how many times did you feel like stopping and saying, this is just
All the time. Yeah,
okay? And yet you persisted.
yeah.
What was that, fear?
Um, a bit, but I didn't want to let you down. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, but in not wanting to let me down,
I will say it was like if it was like because I'd started, it made sense to like
to complete it, yeah.
yeah,
But I think in terms of the sensory, the whole your film gives a strong sensory feel of your experience,
yeah,
of your perception, and of how your different senses, whether it's about your physicality, or whether it's to do with listening or looking or hearing, it's all in there. So I think that's a strong piece of work.
yeah. I like I think like watching it back and it's strong, but I think when I was putting it together, I don't think I felt like that.
No, but I think the reason I wanted you to do it is obviously so you didn't think too much.
Yeah,
Because I think one of the things you do is you do overthink,
yeah. I think about everything.
and that becomes a stumbling block to actually doing stuff, being creative.
Yeah,
But you can see just by doing this, coming up with it was just off the cuff idea,
yeah,
but it's worked really, really well.
yeah,
And sometimes the really simple things are stronger.
yeah,
No one can mistake what this film is about and what's going on. You know,
yeah, yeah,
and it is partly a kind of essay style of film, a kind of essay experimental film, and that in itself is quite unusual. So
yeah,
it does have mystery, and it does have people will be wondering what's going on, what am I looking at, and I think that's good. That's a good thing to have that,
yeah.
you know. Um, so I think it was worth doing, and hopefully you can use that method or a similar method in the future to kind of get yourself out of the rut that you get yourself in.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know, you can, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Obviously, you can just say, well, I'm just going to do this. And because it's periodic and structured, it means you have something to work through, to follow through, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought your next one could be about you driving.
Oh God. You
Just,
joking?
maybe with a GoPro, because that's one of the things I picked up on was the driving, about how you missed the driving, and you talked a little bit about driving, didn't you?
Yeah, well, my car's just been sat outside at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I don't know what you feel about. So that's my thoughts about the film.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you liked it so much.
Yeah, I think it was good. It's a substantial piece of work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I know, you know, it's when we were talking before about Dwoskin, for example, and you didn't want to go down the road of having to do something about ableism. You just wanted to do something, um, you know, which was creative and not necessarily about your self or your approach or your experience. But every single filmmaker does put themselves in their film,
Yeah.
and so I don't understand why you in particular should be over concerned about putting yourself in the film.
Okay.
Because if I think about all the final films last year, for example, um, it was pretty clear that lots of people put their own experiences into their film.
Yeah.
Um, so I would just say try not to kind of set up these artificial barriers for yourself,
Yeah.
you know. But maybe we can sort of come back to the discussion and see for the final film what could come out of this sort of way of working. Because
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's just been done in time, obviously, and I think with the final film we could come up with something a bit earlier, so there's not, you don't have this like bottleneck,
Okay. Yeah.
unless you're one of those people that likes to work under great pressure.
So sometimes I work better then because I just put stuff off. But it is better to have more time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's what I wanted to
Okay.
just give you a bit of feedback about about that piece of work. I think it's really going to be interesting to see what other people think as well
Yeah.
when they watch it. So I think this, I'll send you a copy of this and you can put it on your blog, and I think it'll be part of your reflection.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.